Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of The Building Blocks. I'm Vivek.
This is Aishwarya.
And today we have with us Animesh, who is the product manager at 1mg.
Hey everyone, really excited to be here.
Welcome, Animesh.
Thank you.
So Animesh, let's start from very beginning. How you landed up in product की दुनिया कैसे पता चली, and how was the journey? फिर 1mg में आए और 1mg में what you are handling right now.
Right, so I have been working for the past 4 years, all 4 years in product. So I was lucky to just land into product role. I started with Topper, where I primarily looked at their syllabus infrastructure and also their practice questionnaire kind of things. Then I had a brief stint at Ninja Guide. Then I landed in 1mg. Here at 1mg, I look at the checkout experience for the user, which means how do we make sure that the user has the most seamless possible journey while trying to purchase medicines. And also I look at the prescription related transactions that happen across the board. So there are multiple things that happen there. So I also take care of that.
Okay. So like generally क्या problems you face किया कहते हैं कि prescription में जो आ रही है जो pharmacy world में is a bit different from the general e-commerce.
Right. So traditional e-commerce में there is one thing which is significantly different from, say, a medicine e-commerce, which is the requirement of prescription. So, for any medicine that you need to purchase, you need to have a valid prescription with yourself, right? So, at 1mg, this is one of the biggest challenges, and I think one of the core strength for us कि prescription को किस तरीके से कितना smoothly, कितना seamlessly आप ecosystem में डाल सकते हो, so that the user does not feel that this is something that he would not want to do and would want to purchase medicines rather than going to his nearby pharmacy and trying to purchase medicines from there.
So that's what something that
is one of the biggest challenges that we face here, apart from the usual e-commerce stuff, right? How do you optimize the funnel? How do you make sure that you take as less time as possible, etc., etc.
So how does this prescription gets validated? Like a user is supposed to upload this prescription or any kind of prescription works. It can be a handwritten, it can be a printed prescription. So how does that function?
Yeah, so there are guidelines to a valid prescription which are released by the government. What we do is we let the user purchase or show his intent to purchase medicines and also add a prescription along with that order. Then we have a team of pharmacists, around 150 odd pharmacists who take care of verification whether these prescriptions which are uploaded by the user are as per the guidelines that are released by the government. That happens in the background. As soon as that happens, we then inform our warehouse teams to process the order for delivery.
Got it. So what exciting problem you are going to discuss today?
So I think the most exciting project that we are working on right now for the past 1.5 years now, which is my baby project, so to say, is what we internally call done in one. But what it would mean to an external audience is that it is the most seamless, the best possible way you can put to purchase medicines across the country, online, offline, any world whatsoever.
Okay, that sounds interesting.
Yeah.
So what triggered this vision of done in one, like as the name suggests, ordering medicine in a minute, right?
Right.
So what triggered the vision?
So basically, when I joined, the usual exercise, right? You have to go through the entire product and figure out what's wrong with it because it's the first user's view. Once you go into that ecosystem, then you forget how you think as a user. So that is what I was doing, and we, me and my manager Pratik, both of us stumbled across the same point that is this really the right way to get medicines ordered? And our objective or our vision as the checkout team or the cart flow team would be that we need to make the most seamless possible way to purchase medicines. Navigated through that space a little bit, and we always stumbled upon this question that what is the best possible way in today's world, and it was always an offline pharmacy. So if you go to an offline pharmacy, you just stay in the queue for a couple of minutes, you get to a pharmacist, you hand over the prescription, you get your medicines, you make the transaction, that's it. It's a 5-minute journey for the user. It's very seamless, right? You don't have to think about it, you don't have to put so much effort in searching items, etc., etc. So we then thought that how do we put this offline experience digitally while also going an extra mile and making it much easier and much preferable for the user to purchase medicines online rather than going to the offline pharmacy. Because if you think about it, offline pharmacy is the actual competition you're trying to beat.
Right.
So that is how we landed upon landed upon Done in One. And now when we then continued to think on it, we said that we would essentially be looking at an Uber for medicines where the user just shows an intent to purchase his medicine. We connect him to someone who is an expert at that, which would be a pharmacist, because that is how it happens in offline pharmacy. This pharmacist would then go to the shelves, imagine going to the shelves, figure out what medicines the users need, how much quantity, what is the best possible discount, etc., and then lets the user know that I've placed the order for you. So that is what we are building in Done in One.
And all of this is getting done within a minute.
That was the initial, target we had. We are not there yet, but we are hopefully going to reach there.
That sounds very interesting. मतलब 1 मिनट के अंदर इतना कुछ अगर हो जाएगा तो like my life as a user is done.
I think one of the most difficult problems that we have right now is answering whether 1 minute as the target really makes sense. Because there is a trade-off here. Because if you want to do things fast, you will have to cut a few things from the conversation. There is a conversation happening between two human beings, right? So do you cut that conversation? Would that make the experience jarring for the user? Or would you just increase the time a little bit and have that conversation very properly with the user?
So since you mentioned conversation, अभी कैसे चलता है flow which we have for the users right now?
Right. So user places a request. So basically क्या होता है कि prescription चाहिए होता है हमें. User places a request with a prescription. Within 2 seconds, we are able to connect that user with the pharmacist. We have a team of pharmacists. Then the pharmacist looks at the prescription, validates whether this prescription is okay to process, adds medicines for the user, applies the best possible coupon available. If required, speaks with the user,
right?
Whether he needs some clarity, etc., and then completes the transaction for the user. He just places the order for him.
Okay.
So like you said, that you're comparing it with an offline pharmacy where you stand in the queue, in a couple of minutes you get the medicines. So I think I get the point where you're in a couple of minutes you're placing an order, but not necessarily the user will get medicine in the couple of minutes, right? How do you then manage that anxiety for a user?
So I think it's an ecosystem thing. And again, this is coming back from a set of discussions we had within product, with business. So how we are looking at medicine ordering in general is that you would need to solve this problem, which we have talked about, but there is also the delivery problem at hand.
Correct.
Right? And there is a clear-cut understanding that there is only a certain kind of demand that you can fulfill using online medicine ordering. If someone needs a medicine for emergency, say in the next 10 minutes, they would not be looking at you.
Right.
So the kind of users we are looking at is primarily the chronic kind of users who would be repeat ordering everything. They would want the best kind of discounts. They would want to order from the comfort of their homes. So delivery of medicines becomes a secondary problem for them because they can stay, say, for a day or so to get their medicines, and that is okay for them. In parallel, we are also obviously putting an effort to make it quicker and quicker for the users to receive their medicine. So we are already right now at 1 to 2 hours of delivery. We are exploring possibilities to make it 30 minutes. I don't think lower than 30 minutes would really be required for the kind of users we are talking about. Unless we want to move into the emergency kind of ecosystem, which is an entirely different problem to solve.
Right.
So there are two separate parts of the problem parallelly we have.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so बीच में you mentioned कि prescription को validate करते हैं pharmacists. So when you talk about these prescriptions, these are digital prescriptions or handwritten things जो doctors लिखते होते हैं, and then we are trying to decode from that and then place the order.
So both. And in India, you can imagine most of them would be handwritten. So we can simply put a 80-20 rule. 80% handwritten होते हैं, 20% computerized होते हैं. Government has recently put down guidelines where government hospitals are expected to put computerized prescriptions across, and also any doctor prescribing medicines on a piece of paper would have to write everything in block letters. Okay. So that is making it easier, but as you can imagine, this would take some time to adopt. But right now we are getting the prescriptions the way you imagine the prescriptions to be, which are very clumsy and very difficult to understand.
So, Api, for this validation and all, are we using some sort of techniques to actually decode that, or it's like a manual thing that's happening, or technology is helping in certain way to actually, because you're trying to do it in 1 minute, so where is technology coming in place?
Right. So, honest answer, not really moving things by leaps and bounds using technology, but sure, we are using technology. We have data science models in place, a couple of research papers out there जो हमें प्रिस्क्रिप्शन को डिजिटाइज करने में असिस्ट करते हैं, बट दैट इज ऑब्वियसली 60, 70, 80 whatever percentage accurate, and we obviously need a human intervention because that is again a compliance thing, number one, and number two, you cannot build 60-70% confidence and just do it without a human verifying things. So both of these things are going on, but the 1 minute target, as I mentioned earlier, is not really very critical for us right now, but we are still trying to go as close as possible.
So you mentioned about compliance thing, तो मतलब even the laws bind us कि हमारे को prescription manually किसी को देना होगा, system cannot give.
Simply put, a human who is qualified to verify if the prescription is correct or not needs to vet that this prescription is correct. A machine cannot do it right now.
Got it. So we'll need this manual intervention.
Yeah. Maybe at some point कोई ऐसा AI आ जाता है जो इस चीज़ को बहुत efficiently कर देता है, and then government does not have that mandate anymore, but that is, I don't know how long.
So since you mentioned this manual intervention and a lot of manpower is involved, right? So do you see that there will be some challenges in future to build this sort of a system at scale, right? When you scale up and there are multiple orders flowing in.
It obviously puts some challenge in scaling up compared to a completely software-driven product. But how we basically do it is make it a hybrid of tech and human. And that is, I think, the best way to move forward, at least from the visibility that we have, which you can say 10 years ka horizon. So yeah, challenge will be there while scaling up, but we are going to continue to improve our tech that can enable the pharmacists to do their job better, more efficiently, so that we are not one-to-one dependent on the pharmacists to scale up. For example, as I mentioned, we already have a couple of models in place. We are also continuously working with Google and Google research teams to develop an even better algorithm that could enable us to get a better efficiency score on prescription digitization. In parallel, we also leverage process to make it lesser dependent on a pharmacist. What we do is we basically keep a digital blueprint of every prescription in our system. So if a user is placing another order using the same prescription, we don't need a pharmacist to give us that information because we already have it.
So, just out of curiosity, as a user, how are we validating the validity of the prescription? Let's say the doctor has prescribed me a medication for 15 days, right? Am I allowed to place an order for 30 days, right? Are you validating at that level, or it's just the medicine is written and prescribed by a doctor, so let the user buy it?
No, we go to the bottom-most possible level of validation, which means we literally record the date on which medicine was prescribed and the number of days for which it is prescribed, and we have logics built that enable us to calculate how many medicines can the user purchase at a certain point in time. And we keep account of that. We don't let the user purchase more than what is allowed.
Got it. So I'll not be able to place an order for 30 days if it is prescribed for 15 days.
Yeah.
Got it. So those checks and balances are in place.
Yeah, so Animesh mentioned there's a team of pharmacists on ground that's helping you verify the prescriptions, and then this technology also at place. So it's something कि operation और technology दोनों मिलकर problem solve कर रहे हैं. And in general, when you think of these kinds of businesses, वहाँ पे काफी ज़्यादा challenges आते हैं to actually make this work. Rather than a totally software-based product, it's much difficult. So when you were doing this, what were few challenges that you faced, and how did you tackle them up?
Right. Yeah. So I think. When you talk about products that are completely technology driven versus products that are a juncture of both technology and operations, the primary challenge as a product manager is that you now have to cater to two users, not just your external user, but also someone who's working for you, who's an internal user. In their life, what I've seen is there are problems that seem very little to us, but they create a lot of difference in their lives. For example, if you put one Google sheet or a Google form as part of their process, that okay, you have to put XYZ things in a Google form, you don't have a native solution for it, it becomes a challenge for them. They have to switch between tabs, they have to do a lot of things that just takes that focus away from them. So the primary problem that we tried to address was that we should always listen to these users as well. So we have always put them in the same bracket as our end users, that okay, we are solving it for end users, they are also solving it for end users. So the problems they face are essentially going to create a bad experience for the actual customers. So we had common objectives, right? So we said that if we are optimizing for lower cancellations, you are also working on the same thing. We said that we will always listen to your problems. We will always make sure that your problems are taken care of. So we have separate team working explicitly just for the pharmacist problems that are in place, or so to say, the operations problems that are in place. So that is how I think we are trying to create a balance between the two kinds of users, and not just focus on one user while forgetting about the other user completely.
Got it. So after you solved all these things, तो अभी यूजर का कैसा response आ रहा है, how they are reacting to this, their adoption rates, and how is it really helping them? You must have talked with some users, how they reacting to it.
Yeah, so just a recent user testing study that we did, and we feel very relieved to say that most of the users are able to understand what we're trying to do.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it also shows in numbers. We have seen cancellations drop by 1/3 for the users who have adopted to this new feature.
Okay.
And we are able to do things in 3 minutes, more or less, which is a really acceptable tat when you think about the number of things that the pharmacist has to do. Right. So, and 3 minutes is also acceptable for the user because he would be stuck to his screen for 3 minutes, and that is okay. So that is how it is working out right now.
Yeah. So one more thing that popped up in mind. So how is the competition space in this now? Is it like our competitors also doing something similar, or we are the first one to crack it up?
I think what we are doing is not done by anyone else right now. Versions of this, sure. A version of this we also had earlier, but what we are doing, it is completely unique. No one is doing it right now. But I would want people to do it, right? Because you would eventually want to serve all your customers better. And if more people do it, more innovation comes in, more solutions in mind, and that is how the whole thing goes.
So, like Vivek asked about competitions, what do you think other e-commerce companies can also do? Can they build something similar? Like everybody would have that cart all
Right.
e-commerce companies have a cart system, right?
Right.
So, can they build a system like a done-in-one for grocery, let's say?
Interesting. So just thinking out loud, I think this version of placing orders may not be fit into the traditional e-commerce that we have today, right? The us kind of people in the world who are trying to place orders, that is a primary user for all traditional e-commerce. But e-commerce is also not able to penetrate everywhere. So now think about people who belong to smaller cities, the kind of people who don't have that much literacy. They are not as much tech savvy. And they also have the neighborhood uncle, the kirana shop uncle, जो उनके लिए उनके items दे देते हैं, right? What happens there? There is a पर्चा जहाँ पर आपने लिखा होता है. You hand over that पर्चा to that person. He tells you कि मैं 10 मिनट में आपके घर पहुँचाता हूँ, and you go back home. Why can't we do it here? We absolutely can.
Right.
And if you think about a big basket of sorts who wants to penetrate into, say, a tier 3 city where there is a lack of literacy, there is a lack of resources, they would definitely want to not let technology completely drive order placement, because there would be more users who would be willing to place order via recordings, via WhatsApp.
Right.
And this just plugs into all of that.
Correct. Right. So one more thing that comes into my mind, like since मैं big basket and all, तो मतलब ये कहीं ना कहीं जाके फ्रिजेस के साथ भी अटैच हो सकता है कि मैं फ्रिज पे मॉनिटर करके चल रहा हूँ और मेरा अगर ये सामान is going out of stock, probably I'm placing that order directly.
Yeah. We are actually considering a repeat kind of a use case even for us. Right. That also becomes so easy, right, for the user. He would just get a call sometime that, okay sir, आपकी medicines खत्म होने वाली होंगी. Would you want us to refill it? We are, by the way, offering XYZ. And user would say, okay, because I'm a chronic customer, I would need those medicines.
So as a user, मेरी headache भी कम हो जाती है कि यार, so there is someone else taking care of me, and then I can
Yeah. So 1mg has always also tried to be not just a pharma player, right? We have always said we are an integrated healthcare player.
Right.
And from that perspective, this makes so much sense, right? That you would have someone who's taking care of the user, not just serving for the user.
Correct.
And I think that would go leaps and bounds in the user experience.
So, I think we've talked about a lot of stuff that you've done at, 1mg on your product, on your baby product done in one that you call, right? So, any PMing funda that you want to, call out here that might help our aspiring product managers or even seasoned product managers?
मतलब ज्ञान की बात
ज्ञान की बात।
ये तो रोज करते हैं. I think 3 main things come to mind. One, always go with first principles. First principles never go wrong. If you're really thinking about something new, then first principles should make sense. Second, always be close to your users. If you don't do that, you will eventually build something no one wants. So that is just your time waste, their time waste. It's just not going to make sense. And third, which I've learned the hard way, is be as close as possible to data. Because data tells you something, on top of it, user tells you something, on top of it, you have your first principle thinking. That ends up creating a kind of product that everyone wants to use. And that is why you are in this space at the first place, that you want to create beautiful products.
Yeah, so one thing that you mentioned, being close to the users, I think that's the thing that everyone talks about. But how do you feel like when we scale, how we can still be close to users? Because at scale, we'll be having a lot of personas in the market. How do we try that I can get understanding of everyone?
Right. Good question. I think there are no right answers here. How I try to do it is, I never miss a chance to talk to someone who is not a 1mg employee and could be a potential 1mg user.
Got it.
So just the other day, my wife was going to place an order for medicines. She asked me that 1mg par kuch offer वगैरह चल रहा है क्या? And she did all of that. Whatever happened. I had a 1 hour long conversation with her, trying to understand problem क्या थी, क्या हुआ, and where do you face challenges, why did you use this and not this, etc, etc. Similarly, me and Somik, who's working with me as a designer, we always try to set up testing studies, try to bring questionnaire in place, usability studies, all of that. We try to cover a wide range of potential customers, which could be someone who's, say, at my grandfather's age, 75, 80, all the way to someone who's a friend, 25, 26. So that is how we try to get an integrated, say, feedback. But that being said, you never can do enough about this.
Right.
The more customers you talk to, more things you know. So,
right. So we have to focus on this basic thing that ये तो करना है. Execution comes later, but identifying the problems is something where a lot of time.
Yeah. So if you think about it, एक भी user से बात करोगे ना, you will find 5 new things.
Right.
Correct.
That is 100% sure. So that is better than not finding anything.
Right.
Being in your own silo and trying to build something, that is just not going to work out.
So guys, that was cool advice from Animesh. I hope you guys implement this in your journeys. Right?
So I think we are almost near towards the end. So what do we do next?
So, let's have some fun. We'll just, throw some random product names to you, and whatever comes first to your mind without even, giving a second thought, just speak that out.
And that has to be something about like the words that we think of. Like, for example, if I talk about Swiggy, I think of like a good visual designs. So something like that, and we'll just keep throwing products at you, and you have to think of first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
UPI.
Mind-boggling.
Figma.
Okay, I have to find a different word for mind-boggling. I think my go-to place.
Okay.
Got it.
Uber. Failing business.
That might hurt some people out there.
Jira. Complicated.
Oh.
That's the product management tool. Google Meet.
Google Meet. Headache?
But with hybrid kind of culture, वो तो काफी वहाँ पे help कर रहा है.
Sure, but all things considered, it's probably more a headache than solving, because this is better than a Google video.
Right. Okay. Last one, YouTube.
YouTube. Engaging.
Yeah.
So because I just go to YouTube every day and spend 1 hour. So.
Great. I think that was some good answers.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's it from this episode of the Building Blocks. We'll meet you in next time with another speaker from NMG. Till then, make sure you like, share, and subscribe this to our channel. And whatever things you feel that we should be discussing in these podcasts, you should leave that out in the comment section. On that note, this is Team Building Blocks signing out. We will see you in the next episode. Peace.
Thank you, guys.